under NASA's paint. They color correct the truth till it fades away. Face on Mars stares back with ancient eyes. Pyramids rising where the dead wind cries. Cylinders gleaming in the rover's glare. Stone circles standing like they don't belong there. Brian Corey Dobbs got the footage on lock. John Ward slicing through the pixels non-stop. Sahara Cosmos, Ricardo Calvario, Jason Huffman, Shaman, 7-Eleven, Aleksander Czeszkiewicz. We're all in. Mars disclosure live, ripping the lies apart tonight. Pyramids on Mars, life in the dirt, ancient cities buried. Feel the hurt. Mars disclosure live, truth is burning through the red sky. We expose the history, the nuked out past, potential for life. It's ours at last.
Sponsored by Spores MD for your personal mind-body wellness journey.
Greetings, humans. We are live for another episode of Mars Disclosure Live on July the 26th. It is 4:07 p.m. where I am at in the multiverse. I just wanted to shout out anyone watching in the chat. If you're watching from a different part of the world than I'm at in Georgia, USA, let us know in the chat. We've got a international panel here today again for another episode of Mars Disclosure Live. And as usual, we're joined by my lovely co-host, Megan. Megan, are you excited to talk to Dr. John Brandenburg today?
Absolutely. Can't wait. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm pumped up. The chat's pumped up. Edward Schlumpenberger, why are you watching from my channel, bro? I see you're watching from someone else's channel.
Yeah, mine, because, you know, we all get to be friends, man. I answer his Discord messages. Do you? No, I'm just kidding.
There's a Discord. I'm sure I've been invited before, but if
get over to Dave's, Edward. Thank you for showing up in mine, bro. But get over to Dave's because that's where the crowd is usually, anyhow.
Yeah, and if you don't know what this is Mars Disclosure Live. Every 2 weeks, we are looking at new amazing anomalies and artifacts that people have found on Mars. We talk about suppressed science and history to put together puzzle pieces of the enigma that is the red planet. We do this as we are standing on the shoulders of giants because there's people who come before us who've done all this work for us to be sitting here and talking about this today. And we've got one of those giants here today that I'm going to introduce here shortly. I just wanted to say hi to everyone real quick. John Ward from John Ward at YouTube, we'll call him Mars Anomaly Researcher Extraordinaire. How are you today, man?
Hi, very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm glad to meet you, Dr. Brandenburg. I've been following your work for many years.
Yeah, I think as all of us. Next up, we got Ricardo Calvario of the Institute for Natural Philosophy. Are you excited to talk to Dr. B today, Ricardo?
Absolutely. I'm hoping to learn very much today. In fact, all our episodes have great teaching material, but today especially with Dr. Brandenburg. So I'm hoping for great things, for a great day. Thank you for joining us.
Outstanding. We got next up Aleksander Czeszkiewicz, author of Deja Vu. Has everything already been? Check it out on Amazon. What do you think, man? We got a legend here in the house today. Olek, what's up?
I'm actually grateful for you because you invited me a few months ago to do this show, and it's getting better and better actually, and I'm really glad I can meet in such an environment and on such a panel such people like Dr. John Brandenburg, so it's an honor for me. Can't wait.
Outstanding. Jason Huffman, the Institute for Natural Philosophy, the Shaman and Philosopher podcast with Ricardo. How are you? Welcome to Mars Disclosure Live.
Good, dude. Thank you. As always, I'm excited to be here. You know what I always say, man. One of the reasons and what I personally get out of all of these podcasts I do, and you know, I do a lot with you, is meeting the independent researchers or the researchers and the people that are actually doing this work and having to dive into their work, as I had to do this week for Dr. Brandenburg here. So I'm excited and honored just to, again, continue this process of meeting excellent researchers. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and with that, we got a very special treat today. We are thrilled to welcome special guest Dr. John Brandenburg, a brilliant plasma physicist, inventor, and the researcher whose bold work on nuclear isotopes has forced the world to take a second look at Mars. Early discoveries about the red planet's ancient ocean to his groundbreaking analysis of possible thermonuclear events that may have reshaped its history. Dr. Brandenburg brings decades of high-level scientific expertise to the show today. And so we are super grateful for you to be here today, man. Thank you so much for joining Mars Disclosure Live. We got a little bit of a delay with Dr. B, by the way. So just bear with us. Welcome to the show, Dr. B. You think you can hear me? What do you guys think? Dr. Brandenburg?
I think perhaps his audio.
Right.
No, he's listening. It's a long lag.
How long are we talking?
I don't know, but he seems to be watching.
Dr. Brandenburg, can you please respond to this so we can see if you're active?
There. Well, I'm sorry. It's do you have this kind of problem with other guests?
Occasionally it happens, yeah.
Okay, well, here's what I suggest. Dr. Brandenburg, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction, and then I'd like... Yeah, I just want to give you a quick introduction and have you say hi, and then we can turn your camera off to get your audio going. Is that okay? All right. Anyway, guys, what I had hoped here is that we could just go around the room and have you guys directly chat with Dr. Brandenburg, throw him some questions related to his hypothesis here. I'll call him on the phone in here just a minute and explain everything to him. So anyway, we've discussed Dr. Brandenburg's nuclear hypothesis on Mars. I've got some questions here that I'm going to throw to him, but I want to give everybody a chance to go around the room and talk about it. And then, as usual, at the end of the show, Jean's got a slideshow of cool stuff for us to look at. Let me, Dave, you just buy us a moment of time here. I'm going to just give Dr. Brandenburg a call and explain everything to him over the phone.
Yeah, I can buy us some time. Let's just go around the room since we're all content creators. Jean Ward just did an episode on my show where he showed us some crazy stuff on Mars, to include some UFOs. You put out a video about the UFOs on Mars as well. How was that received, Jean?
Yeah.
It's gone absolutely viral. It's gone viral, and I gained over 1,000 new subscribers.
I'm gonna mute him. Hold on.
I can roust one up. I mean, I got several. So
Boom.
Dave, can I just make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I suggest that this is what we try when things doesn't go through a computer, is just ask Dr. Brandenburg to click the link through his phone, and we won't have any single problem either with camera or with audio.
Yeah, he's talking to him on the phone right now. Let's see how that went. Viral, you got 1,000 subscribers from that one, Jean?
Yeah, just over 1,000 new subscribers as a result of that. Things are getting weird on Mars Video.
Wow.
That's great. We got John Brandenburg back here.
Bravo.
I muted
Okay,
him.
so Dr. Brandenburg, can you hear us?
No, he can hear us, but I muted him. Sorry,
Okay.
guys, bear with us.
We're good. He's unmuted now.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Brandenburg, are you there?
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna go around the room and just have everybody ask you some questions about this crazy hypothesis of yours, and we'll just see how it goes.
Okay, sure. Please
All right.
discuss it, and then
Who wants to go first?
What was
Dave,
oh, well, I ask in this.
His audio is terrible.
Is there any way he could think about clicking the link on his mobile phone? Is that too much to try to walk him through and then have him just come in mobile? Because I don't know about Streamio, but in Riverside, that pretty much always solves these problems if it's a possibility.
Just send him an email with the link. He presses the link and he comes in, and that's it.
Can you do that quick, Brian?
We call him.
Yeah.
Okay, I just muted him again.
Dave, I've got a technical question.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm monitoring my YouTube feed, and the video hasn't started playing on my side yet. Do you know what could be wrong?
No.
Should I leave the studio and maybe rejoin and then relink?
It says you're going from my end. I think you just need to refresh.
Yeah, I
the
also
page.
see both you and Brian's channel. I'm opened like all of our channels, and it's going on. There are people in the chat, so
Yeah, you're
maybe
going.
refresh.
You're going. Refresh your page. It should be up there.
Okay,
Rube,
mate.
please, Lord, no tech gremlins today. Yeah, no. Well, we're getting
Too
the
late,
tech
Rube.
gremlins. Yeah, I can help you with that, Rue. So Brandenburg was an early proponent, starting in the 1970s, 1980s, of the idea that Mars once had a substantial northern paleo ocean, a view that was initially rejected, but it's now widely accepted in mainstream planetary science, which is why I said we're standing on the shoulders of giants today. Some of the more quote controversial work centers around isotopic anomalies in the Martian atmosphere and surface. That's one of the things we were going to talk to him about today. You guys may have heard of the whole Xenon 129. Martian atmosphere shows a significantly elevated ratio of Xenon 129 to Xenon
Dave?
132. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna try something here. Okay, Dr. Brandenburg, can you say hi?
Yes, hi.
Hey,
Can you
that
guys hear
works.
that?
No
Yeah.
way.
Okay. We're gonna have to go low tech today. He's in a hotel and it's not working. So
Times dumber is smarter.
Yeah, agreed. Let's
is that
do it.
loud enough?
Yeah, I think so. We'll try it this way. Dr. Brandenburg, can you hear me? I'll ask the first question.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. This is Dave from Dave's Multiverse. I was just wanted to ask you.
All right, Dave. Great.
can you-
I'm honored to be on your show. I'm sorry this is. I gave a really important paper at a big physics conference, and somebody else tried to call me, just interview me by phone yesterday, and everything started cutting out. It was crazy. It's never happened before.
No worries. We've dealt with tech issues before. We're gonna make it work. Seems like Brian's got you not on a delay now, so that's exciting.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we're just doing it by phone. We're phoning it in.
I love it. I didn't want to give up on it. Everyone was excited to hear from you today, including including our
I
guests.
love your guests. They look like a really great bunch. I'm very honored to be talking to them.
Okay, so Dave, why don't we start off with you? You got Dr. Brandenburg here. He says there's been a nuclear catastrophe in the past on Mars. How do we lead this thing off, Dave?
I just wanted, if you could, walk us through like the early discoveries of the key isotopic evidence. Like, what led you to the initial discovery?
Okay, what happened was I was working. My education was done at a nuclear weapons lab called Lawrence Livermore National Lab. I didn't work directly on nuclear weapons. I worked on fusion energy, which has been my basic thing. And then I went to Albuquerque and worked at another big government lab that also did nuclear weapons work. And I went through two nuclear crises when we were there, and it was bad enough to be just an ordinary citizen and go through a nuclear crisis. But to be in a government lab like that, where you're kind of really aware of that. So I basically was looking for something to continue my career for. I really felt like just, I want to give up. I want to get out of here. I want to go someplace to just teach physics at some college. And then I saw the objects on Mars. This is in 1983, right after the nuclear winter and what was called the Able Archer nuclear crisis. You can look that up on Wikipedia. Able Archer 83 nuclear crisis, where we went as close to a nuclear war as the Cuban Missile Crisis, but it was secret. Nobody except people like us inside the lab knew about it. So it was a discouraging time. And then the day after Christmas, I saw this piece on this face on Mars, and they had two pictures and were able to enhance them. And it was amazing. So I started getting in contact with them. But for the first time, I had hope for the future. That my children, my little daughter, who was my only child at the time, was going to grow up without a nuclear war in her future. And it was the end of the Cold War was in a very cold phase. So basically, I started researching researching Mars, and I did it as a scientist. I began to examine all the scientific papers, the Viking thing, and we discovered and we joined a group of other scientists and engineers across the country in a primitive version of the internet, and we were all investigating. And I found out that near the site of the face on Mars, there was the shores of an ancient ocean. And I was able to map that, and I ended up presenting it at a conference, and it was well received. But because of my involvement in a Mars dead civilization, I'm the Voldemort of Mars. No one will mention my name on Mars. And so what happened was I had hope for the future, and I continued my career as a scientist working for the government. And I learned all about space flight and missions to Mars and things like this. So it actually gave my career a big shot in the arm. Before that, I'd been working on nuclear weapons and fusion. Not nuclear weapons, directed energy weapons and fusion energy. So this was a real godsend to me and lifted me out of a depression. So, but the price I paid was myself and the other scientists and engineers discovered that we were under government surveillance for investigating Mars. We couldn't figure out, I didn't believe in UFOs at the time, and I couldn't figure out why the US government would care. You'd think they'd be happy to find a dead civilization on Mars. Well, they weren't. And they were basically trying to keep it quiet. and we were messing up their plans. But we continued anyway, and we found another face on Mars. And then I began investigating all of the geochemical evidence, looking for evidence of a past Earth-like period on Mars. And that's when I encountered that a lot of the isotopes on Mars are very similar to Earth. And especially of the noble gases that don't react chemically. And one of the gases that doesn't react chemically is called xenon. And it has a number of isotopes. And I was in the library just, in those days, you didn't download documents. You stood in line at a Xerox machine and Xerox whatever scientific article you wanted from a scientific journal. And the person behind me in line noticed I would have this book on Mars. It was the results of the Viking expedition. And he said, gee, why are you interested in Mars? And I showed him, I said, this is very interesting stuff. I said that the only thing that's really glaringly different between Earth and Mars is two isotopes. And one of them is xenon 129. It's very elevated on Mars compared to Earth as a portion of the atmosphere. And said, gee, could I see the data? And I showed him the graph. And his face changed from being very, genial and kind of happy-go-lucky curiosity to suddenly his face got blank. He said, somebody nuked him. And then he looked straight at me and he said, somebody nuked him. And then he stepped out of line. He said, I'm sorry, I can't talk anymore. And we were an unclassified library. So he immediately disappeared through a door into the classified section of the lab. And he realized that he had said something classified. And this happened occasionally in the labs. People would just be talking freely and realize suddenly they'd revealed information that was classified. And it was just, you just excused yourself and everything was fine. It was just an innocent mistake. So he had innocently revealed that that this was evidence of a past massive nuclear set of nuclear explosions on Mars. And I looked into other sources of the xenon 129, and as it turns out, it's a unique signature of what's called I believe it's called R process. It happens in supernovas and in nuclear weapons where you get fast neutrons splitting atoms. And when they do that, they make this xenon 129 as kind of a signature of that. And it doesn't occur like from a nuclear reactor. You could have natural nuclear reactors on Mars. They probably were active like they were on Earth, but that doesn't produce xenon 129. In fact, that was the first idea I had is I thought, well, it was a big natural nuclear reactor that went unstable and blew up. No, wouldn't produce the xenon 129. It would produce other isotopes we could find, but there weren't any signs of those. It was the xenon 129. And the laboratory I worked at, Sandia National Labs, was a center of expertise for monitoring the atmosphere for possible secret nuclear tests by like North Korea or somebody. They would monitor the atmosphere, and one of the things they looked for was xenon 129. So that began the quest. Then there's another isotope called argon-40, which is hyperabundant on Mars. And it's the result of rocks being bombarded with high energy neutrons as from a nuclear explosion. So these two isotopes, the principal one being xenon 129, but also the argon-40, show that, yes, there was a massive nuclear holocaust on Mars. And we're talking hydrogen bombs as big as the Empire State Building being dropped from space onto Mars by somebody. And then we have also found, of course, sadly, the face on Mars indicating a dead civilization. So apparently that civilization, the best hypothesis we can make right now is that civilization was targeted from space by yet another civilization. I mean, it makes sense that if there's going to be one, if there's Earth is a
Gotta call him back. Something hang up. Hang on.
Sounds like we need to stay in line. We need to stay in line, or we might get nuked ourselves.
Yep. You want?
Oh, hang on. Here we go. All right.
How much of it did you catch?
Everything. Go ahead and pick up from where you just left off 5 seconds ago. Go ahead.
Sense that if we're a civilization in space, living in the cosmos on a planet, and there was another civilization on a nearby Earth-like planet. Mars was Earth-like; it had an ocean in its past, like Earth, and that means Earth-like climate. And then it makes sense that these two civilizations would not be unique in the universe. There would be other ones, and apparently there was another one. And the civilization on Mars looks like it was quite primitive. Bronze Age, let's say approximately, like ancient Egypt or even the Mayans. And somebody came by and dropped. We've identified 2 hot spots on Mars that are more radioactive than the surrounding areas. And they are apparently where the impact zones occurred. And this means that they dropped 2 massive nuclear weapons in space. And they didn't make craters. That means they were airbursts. So they burst many kilometers above the surface. And anyone who has studied nuclear war, like the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, knows they were airbursts. Airbursts are far more effective in damaging and destroying things than ground bursts.
Dr. Brandenburg, let me just interrupt you here. I think this is a great start. I want to see if we can get right into questions from the panel, and we will.
Absolutely.
We're already getting questions coming in from our current viewers here. So, Dave, Megan, do any of you guys have any preliminary questions? Should we throw it around the room? I saw some come in here. Any response? Because you were the one who you asked, Dave.
No, I thought I just wanted him to set the table because it's fascinating research, and if true, what does that say about our existence here right now? So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If anyone else wants to jump in with a question, and then we can get to some questions from the chat, that'd be great. Jean,
right,
you got a question?
Yes, Dr. Brandenburg, thank you for that. I wanted to know from you, what do you think, could a plasma energy type of weapon have been used on Mars to create that scar on the one side? I know there's various theories that it could have been a plasma discharge and that sort of thing. Do you think it could have been a related weapon of mass destruction that caused that huge scar on Mars?
Well, one introduces intelligent activity, especially malicious activity, the possibilities multiply rapidly. However, I am a plasma physicist by training. This is what I do principally for the controlled fusion energy. And it's very difficult to imagine that a plasma wave in the solar wind that came out and struck Mars with enough impact to cause the Valles Marineris. You're aware of the Great Rift Valley in Africa, correct?
Yes.
Yes, please go on.
Actually separating from the rest of Africa. And the separation zone is the Great Rift Valley. It's a chain of lakes and rivers down in a kind of a canyon. And that's a course is covered with lush jungle and I think my own theory is that the Great Valles Marineris is possibly a Great Rift Valley. Sort of Mars is trying to separate into a separate continent. However, it's Gene Ward, right?
Yes.
Yes, please. That's correct.
I don't know what caused the Valles Marineris to form. It's certainly an enormous geologic scar on Mars. It stretches equivalent to the entire from New York City to Los Angeles if it was on Earth. And I don't know what caused it, but it is possible that this was as a result of a directed energy weapon of some sort, and that certainly would have released enough energy to cause the loss of Mars' atmosphere and the drying up of its ocean, as we have currently seen. However, it's unfortunately, since the mechanism of this plasma event is kind of not known in detail, it's difficult to say that this is what caused the xenon 129 anomaly and also the argon 40. Well, the argon 40 is just due to a bunch of neutrons. Maybe the plasma weapon created a bunch of neutrons, but the xenon 129 is a signature of splitting of atoms like uranium with very high energy neutrons from fusion. So that's the known source of it on Earth, and that occurs in, of course, hydrogen bombs and also supernova in the core of supernova. But like I said, the core of a supernova is a natural event, and perhaps somehow those conditions happen in space. I can't completely rule it out. You know, Gene, the universe is a very strange and violent place sometimes. And, you know, you've got gamma ray bursters that, if one of them occurred in our galaxy, basically wipe out all the life in the galaxy except for some very primitive microbes. So we're certainly glad that doesn't happen here. We haven't had anything like that happen here, but the hypothesis that this was due to massive thermonuclear weapons is just what I consider to be the best hypothesis. But there are certainly other hypotheses, and we'll just have, Gene, we'll have to go up to Mars, boots on the ground, and investigate.
That's what I always say, Dr. Brandenburg. Thank you for that explanation. Somebody in the chat asked, could a meteorite impact have caused those strange isotopes?
Well, if you had a meteor, you can find trace. You can find in meteorites. First of all, the baseline distribution of isotopes in meteorites of xenon looks very similar to Earth and the Sun and even Jupiter, believe it or not, because we did parachute a probe into Jupiter. And if you take the carbonaceous chondrites, the primitive meteorites from the origin of the solar system, and grind them up, and then they don't see this xenon anomaly. You only see it in like isolated crystal deposits in some meteorites. So there are processes. No.
Yeah, we're here. Keep going.
For instance, you can take iodine 129, which is a chemical found in seaweed. It's concentrated in on Earth, and if it and certain cells like it, they basically pick up iodine, and if it has a lot of iodine 129, then you can get a spike in xenon 129 from that. So there are processes involving usually life biology. So you would have to assume almost a meteor that had living organisms on it to create the xenon 129 through the decay of iodine 129, which lasts 16 million years. So it's there are mechanisms that could create it, which are natural, but they seem very, very unlikely. But there's no evidence that occurred anywhere in the solar system except on Earth in nuclear weapons, certainly a product of biology on Earth, and on Mars, where we don't know why they occurred. That's a mystery. We have to, as I said, we have to go up to Mars and investigate.
Dr. Brandenburg. Okay,
Yes.
so if I could help clarify the question being asked and what I believe your answer is here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this question of whether or not a meteorite could cause or produce all this xenon 129, I believe the interest in the question derives from whether or not the impact could produce something like that. This is something that Avi Loeb has even asked, because when I talked to him about this, he says we have to make sure it wasn't meteor bombardment that did it. And the answer I'm hearing from you is that, well, if the meteors that hit Mars were loaded with a bunch of iodine, which then took its time, millions of years, to decay into xenon 129, then maybe, but
Simulate iodine only seen in biological systems. I'm just saying would have to be a meteorite very different from the kinds that are in our collection.
because
Right? Avi Loeb pioneered the investigation of this 3I Atlas thing from outside our solar system. That was a very strange object. There are parts of the universe that are a lot different than this place. So we can't rule it out. Xenon 129 is a natural product of the decay of iodine 129. The problem is that we don't see in our meteorite collections anything that is full of xenon 129. That has a large amount of it in there.
yeah,
Everything else looks very much like Earth, the Sun, Jupiter. It's called average carbonaceous chondrite global gases, and so it is possible, but it seems it's possible, but there's no evidence that it occurred on anything more than a few fragments from the interior of meteorites in our collection much less the entire planet atmosphere being shifted with xenon from Shanghai. So it's certainly possible, but there is no evidence that it occurred on that scale.
Okay.
Any situation that we have been able to examine. The only place you see it is on Mars in its atmosphere.
Yeah, Dr. Brandenburg, thank you. Ricardo here has a question for you.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. Dr. Brandenburg, considering, if I understood correctly, you said this might come from algae. Is that what you said?
No, I said it may have come from another star system with conditions vastly different than here in our solar system.
Yes.
We've had an interstellar visitor, 3I Atlas.
Sure. But I was trying to connect
That was a very strange object. And my own belief, which I share with Avi Loeb, is that based on the data, this thing looks like it was an intelligent probe.
Sure, like Oumuamua, the same thing. In fact, Oumuamua had more evidence to it than Atlas, but in my perspective. But
who would have such evidence?
Sorry?
You were asking who would have such evidence if it existed?
No. I'm saying that before Atlas, we had Oumuamua, which was even stranger.
But Oumuamua, we didn't have. We didn't have as long a time to see Oumuamua, and it was a different object, and certainly different chemically than 3I Atlas. And of course, Oumuamua flew right past the Earth, and sped up, in fact, as it was leaving the solar system. So it,
Correct.
like 3I Atlas, it looked like it was an artificial probe, but its properties were very different.
Sure, life is very different across our planet, across the universe, most likely. So you'll have several sources for different types of lives, and according to the planet chemistry where it impacts, or moons, and what that planet can sustain. So the premise for my question was completely wrong, because I thought you said that this compound could come from algae, and if we had Mars with an ocean, well, there you have your algae within the ocean. So, but I take the opportunity to ask you this.
Yeah, we pronounce it in America algae, and yes. Well, there's iodine that's concentrated in bird droppings, and they feast on fish, so that you have biological systems that concentrate the iodine, and the fish eat the algae and keep the iodine and excrete everything else, and then the birds eat the fish and keep the iodine and excrete everything else, and then the birds nest, and of course their droppings then are enriched in iodine, and that's the source of the iodine deposit in the Atacama Desert. On the Pacific coast of South America. So it's yes, I mean, the problem is that iodine is not that common a element, and it's concentrated by biological systems generally.
Well, not so common here, but in Mars, who knows, right?
Actually, we have Mars meteorite, and they don't have that much iodine in them. They look like Earth rock. They look like Earth lavas.
You can have a meteorite from Earth, from Arizona. You won't find any life on it. So a planet is a big thing. It doesn't necessarily contains all the elements present in the planet. It's
Yeah, I mean, finally, you're talking probability. What seems most likely, given the data we have, and the only place where we find the xenon anomaly widespread in meteorites are meteorites from Mars.
If I could just clarify this one thing about iodine decay here. Dr. Brandenburg, I emailed you about this a while ago, and I'm going to read to the panel what your response to me was then in relation with regard to this iodine. So iodine, after millions of years, will decay into xenon 129. But you wrote to me that the iodine has all decayed in these reservoirs throughout the solar system, the sun, the moon, Jupiter, and here on Earth. It has all decayed. But those reservoirs throughout the solar system are all close to 1-to-1 ratio in abundance from xenon 129. It is the ratio between xenon 129 and 132. They're all close to 1-to-1 in all these locations. But on Mars, it is different. It is a ratio of 2-to-1. So what you're saying is that obviously Mars 2.5-to-1. So obviously Mars experienced something different. If the entire rest of the solar system had all the same amount of iodine and it all decayed the same way, except for on Mars, where it has 2.5 times xenon 129 in relation to xenon 132, then obviously Mars experienced something drastically different.
Yes.
Cool.
And xenon 129 was all born. It only has a 16 million year roughly half-life, and it was born before the solar system was formed. So it decayed very quickly after the formation of the solar system. It didn't hang around. It all decayed rather quickly.
So this seems like an unlikely scenario that Mars would have been.
Seems very unlikely. Yeah.
Right.
Even things as strange as this discovery on Mars, you can stand back and say, well, we have data on this particular isotope, and we even have meteorites from Mars that have this isotope in them, and meteorites also from elsewhere, and it confirms that this is a highly unlikely event. It's just very different than anything else in the inventory of samples that we have, and of course the probes data that we have. And so there you have it. You could still, even if something is strange, you can still calculate some kind of probability based on, since the strangeness is built on data, you can look at the data and as a whole picture and calculate a probability based on what you see.
Thank you. Okay, what's our next question here?
Jason's up.
Doctor, thank you very much for taking the question, Jason Huffman here.
Yes.
So I realize you.
Talking to
Yes,
all.
sir. Thank you. Same. I'll try to be brief, and it may be a twofold answer for you. I realize you're a scientist, and I'm going to stray from the realm of data for just a second, and I'm going to enter the realm of conjecture and supposition on all of our parts.
Well, we all like to venture into that territory.
We do,
You know,
and What I've most loved about it, or most personally enjoyed about this Mars panel, is thinking about and pondering what that means for the story of Earth, for the story of humans, and you with this theory of nuclear explosion, which one automatically sees civilizations or something behind. I'm wondering if you yourself, in any way you like to talk about publicly, have thought about this and have thought about what that means for the human story, and then more specifically, what a potential nuclear destruction on Mars might tell us today. What lessons might we here on Earth put to use from this theory? Thank you, sir.
Well, yes. Well, sadly, we have precedent. We have a lot of testing data, and we also have the employment of nuclear weapons in war against civilian populations. So we know that that is certainly possible. Angels did not step in to stop that from happening. It happened. And so what we have on Mars is a much something of mind-numbing scale compared to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but it is still of the same character. And so there is unfortunately precedent on Earth for the bombardment of civilian, defenseless, the civilian populations with nuclear weapons. And so as far as what does this tell us about the present age? It tells us, and I'm going to quote I have a Hollywood agent I work with because of a movie project we're doing, and his statement is, "As above, so below." In other words, the Earth and its people and its history, good and bad, is not an aberration on the cosmos. We are part of its fabric. In other words, genocide has occurred on Earth, and it occurs elsewhere in the universe. People like to think that people from outer space would be inherently of higher moral character than people on Earth. It's understandable why people would want to believe that. I even believed it myself for a while, but we know that technological advance does not automatically bring moral advancement. The two things are independent.
Right.
You have to, in fact, the more you advance in power through scientific skill, the more you must be aware of the effect of that on innocent beings. I'm not just talking human beings. I'm talking, the whales and everything like that, other intelligent creatures on this planet. So you have to remember that just because somebody could fly here from many light years away does not mean they're going to be morally, even though they're more scientifically advanced than we are, doesn't mean they're going to be morally advanced over us. And I'm sorry to report that. I myself, when I discovered I finally felt I had achieved critical mass on this hypothesis that Mars was wiped out by a nuclear holocaust by more advanced aliens. I wept like a child for about 3 minutes because I had just gone through a nuclear war crisis where I worked, and I'd seen the collapse of morale among my fellows. went from worrying about scientific problems to worrying about what was going to happen to their families if there was a nuclear war. And could they save them? And many of them had concluded there was no hope of saving them from the nuclear impacts and fallout, and then the nuclear winter that would follow. So I was very aware of the effects of nuclear war and possibility of it occurring on Earth. And then I discovered that on another planet, very similar to ours, just that nightmare scenario had occurred. And so I basically just had to get a grip on myself and say, well, in fact, ultimately, I reported this to the authorities in the intelligence fields where I was working, and they took a briefing on it, and they took it very seriously. They asked a lot of questions, and then I asked them, what am I supposed to do? Should I publish this? Should I keep quiet about it? And this, to my great amazement, 6 weeks after giving that briefing to intelligence officials, they sent the message that I should publish. So the government decided to release this information, not as a government report, with government backing, just allowing me as a scientist to report it. So this is part of the disclosure process.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave and Megan, for putting up some of the questions here from the chat. I been doing my best to try to copy some down so we can revisit these. But before we get into some of those, does anybody else here in the room have any follow-up questions?
Oleg, give Oleg a chance.
Yeah, we got a question. Another question here, Oleg.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question, Dr. Brandenburg, about the supernovas, because if we even take into a possibility that it was caused not by a nuclear weapon, but by a supernova, wouldn't the same results in this ratio of isotopes be visible in other parts of the solar system? Because the supernova isn't like a weapon going straight only to the Mars. The effects of that would be also around the Mars, of course, maybe on Earth or maybe in the other parts of the solar system. So I would like to maybe have some thoughts about the supernova stuff and why it's only on Mars and isn't a debunking of supernova idea if it's only on Mars and not around in the solar system.
Oh, well, to me, this, you could say, well, there was the physics of a thermonuclear weapon and the physics of a supernova are very similar. And it uses it's a physical process called R process. So, yes, you could have had a miniature supernova on Mars, and because if it was caused by a supernova, it wouldn't have affected just Mars. Every planet in the solar system that had survived would bear these same isotopic imprints. But no, this was very limited to Mars only. And that another indication that it was artificial, because to trigger a supernova, you need a very large, massive star. And so the only known process producing something like this on Mars, as well as destroying its ocean and Earth-like environment, would be a nuclear holocaust similar to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, only on a much larger scale, but still much a tiny spark into an actual supernova explosion.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Exactly, that's what I thought about this idea, because plenty of people see different explanations, but when you analyze, it's like only on Mars, so it was directed at Mars and not like a random event
Yes,
in
I
the
mean
solar system.
you can see signs that the Earth solar system itself was formed by the residues of a supernova, and but the only place you find xenon 129 in any large, in any is in isolated crystals that probably were biologically concentrated in meteorites, in very tiny portions of those meteorites. The rest of it is it gives a characteristic it's the core of the super time. So when the supernova explodes, of course, its different layers all mix, but some places would be expected to get slightly more, to deviate statistically from the overall average. But the overall, the xenon 129 is present in the solar system everywhere, but it's always balanced by xenon 132, which has competing processes. So as a result, it's the ratio of xenon 132 to 129 on all the planets and in the meteorites is 1-to-1, except on Mars, where it's 2.5-to-1.
Exactly, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so just to follow up on that, before I think John had a question here. There's a question that came in from the chat from Ricardo Petrazzi. Similarly, if we're not looking at a supernova as being a candidate for the explanation here, what about a coronal mass ejection or something else called a micronova? Could either of those be responsible?
Please define what a micronova is.
It's something. It's an emerging science, but I think it is. It is. It's not quite a supernova. It's when the star. It's basically when the star sheds its outer shell after it collects so much dust after going through the galaxy. It sort of shrugs it off and has a little hissy fit one day, but it doesn't entirely explode. But I think the general question here is, some sort of solar outburst, not an entire supernova, but perhaps a smaller solar event that could have caused this. Is it basically the same answer?
Planet Venus has very dense. Xenon 129 132 ratio is the same in Venus, and it's closer to the sun. You'd think if there was some kind of, the other problem with a micronova from the sun is that xenon 129 is due to the disintegration of very heavy elements like uranium, thorium, plutonium, things that are normally only found in very large stars, much larger than the sun. The amount of uranium, thorium, and plutonium in sun is almost vanishingly small compared. The sun is basically hydrogen and helium, and and with some oxygen thrown in, that's the only. Those are its major constituents. The atoms, the nuclei that would have to split to form the xenon 129 are just not present in the solar atmosphere or solar interior, because the sun is constantly mixing its outer layers with its inner layers. That's why the sun is a very turbulent object. So, as far as a coronal mass ejection, we've not seen the coronal mass ejection can certainly disturb the atmospheres of planets, but it looks like the aurora. These disturbances, because the coronal mass ejection goes out and expands into space, by the time it reaches out to Earth and Mars, it's very, very thin. It's almost no pressure whatsoever. So it basically just creates an electric plasma display. But there are no known instances where like an aurora has blown a big crater in something. It's just way up at the edge of space and makes beautiful displays, but it's not. It doesn't seem to have any great destructive power at all. Maybe it disrupts weather, but that's a low temperature. It's a disturbance of a low temperature system. It doesn't make any nuclear reactions.
Got it. We've got a couple questions. John, did you have a question? And then I think Ricardo.
Yeah. Dr. Brandenburg, I've got a question that is in a different gear. In your documentary with Brian, you show a formula of alternate propulsion and how it can reduce the weight, I think, of spaceships or objects. And I'd like to know, what do you think about the recent Department of War release of these UAP disclosure documents and videos? Do you think those craft could be ours employing this alternate propulsion technology?
Well, there's always that possibility. However, I tend to find that the most reasonable explanation for like the Roswell incident story was extraterrestrials and their technology. I don't. So I believe that the U.S. government has been able to basically copy or reverse engineer, gravity control through electromagnetism from these crashes. But that's the details of that are very classified, and I have never been read into that program. So I do my own theoretical on it, but I don't know of. I can't point to any unclassified reports saying that. Well, actually, I know the government has announced we can control space and time. It has said that. And but I don't know of any, I don't know of anything else to, aside from, someone, asked me why I wasn't interested in doing a lot of UFO work, and I said to them, well, they said I worked on Mars. I said, well, on Mars, I have scientific papers I can refer to. And, we have a lot of published work. In ufology, we have only reports. And, we don't know which ones to believe, which ones not to believe. If there was contact between extraterrestrials and our governments, you would expect that the governments would keep that quiet and try and harvest as much technology from that contact as possible. But I don't know any other, that's just conjecture on my part. I don't know anything except that that possibility does seem to be classified, and therefore I had no access to it.
Thanks, Dr. Brandenburg. I want to ask you your propulsion research. What does it involve? And what sort of potential technologies can be made using your propulsion research?
Well, my career has basically, Mars was a little bit of a side trip for me, a unintended train stop. But the major focus of my career has been plasma physics or fusion energy, but also to continue with Einstein's great quest. Einstein's last quest in physics was to unify the two long-range forces of nature, gravity and electromagnetism. And apparently he was correct in his unification. However, he did not like quantum mechanics and avoided it. And apparently that is key to understanding the unification of E&M and gravity. So basically, I have been pursuing theoretical work to try to investigate the Einstein hypothesis that you could do a separate unification. There are four forces of nature. There's the two short-range nuclear forces, the weak force and the strong force. And they operate at the scale of subatomic particles. But the electricity and magnetism and gravity both reach across the universe. They have infinite range. And so Einstein's conjecture or hypothesis was that he could look at the two long-range forces and handle them separately from the weak and the strong force. And yet they are, in a sense, the weak and the strong force. If you have, let's say, a universe that is 100% hydrogen, it's actually only about 75% hydrogen. They believe when the early universe happened, it was 99% hydrogen, electrons and protons. If you have such a universe, it began from 1 second earlier, you had just empty vacuum. And then 1 second later, after the Big Bang, you had a universe that was an expanding fireball of plasma, of hydrogen, electrons and protons. And you also had two long-range force fields, electromagnetism and gravity. And if you look at just that picture, how did you start from empty vacuum to this plasma fireball with electricity, magnetism, and gravity? Then there's hope that this simplified problem can be solved. And so Einstein tried to solve it. I have continued to try to solve that problem, and I think I have made progress. We just got back delivering a progress report at the American Physical Society Division of Particles and Fields, probably the premier theoretical physics conference in this country. It happens every 2 years, and I presented a paper there on my GEM or GEM unification theory, and it was well received.
Dr. Brandenburg, let me just jump in here for those folks who don't know what we're talking about here. Jean, I believe you're referring to the experiment with the balloon where we're lifted. Okay, so
The theory, in addition, the GEM theory provides the a formula for the highly accurate formula that is simple for the Newton gravitation constant, which determines gravity between all objects in the universe and connects it to electromagnetism. Now, the mathematics that allows you to arrive at that result also says that there is a balance between gravitational energy and electromagnetic energy. Specifically, what the part of electromagnetic energy related to the pressure, radiation pressure, called the Poynting vector.
yeah, hang on, just 1 second, one second, Dr. Brandenburg. Dr. Brandenburg, let me just, I want to remind the people what we're talking about here. Dr. Brandenburg has this theory that he's talking about. If you see it in the film, he's got this big whiteboard, this big equation where he's calculating the gravitational constant, right? At the big G, that's what you're, okay. And he's
I'll be very frank, no one else has been able to calculate it.
and so he thinks he's got the best value identified for big G. And what he's done is unify that with electromagnetism, and he puts this to the test in a very real way, where you can see a demonstration where he is goodness, he is essentially lessening the gravitational effect of a very small weight suspended by a balloon by running electricity through it. And I don't know about you guys, but to date, that's the only thing I've ever seen it's the only real life demonstration of anti-gravity I have ever seen. Now, it is just a small weight dangled by a balloon, but these folks are talking about 0-point energy all day long. No one has yet produced a video that shows even just this much. And Dr. Brandenburg not only has the formula, but he's done the demonstration. So I think what John's question is it possible to scale this up to try to launch rockets off of Earth using your equations and using this principle, something like that?
Yes, I believe it will be possible, and that you will not only see it, you will ride in it. So instead of kerosene, instead of liquid natural gas and liquid oxygen, you will be using electric power. And the other part of my work is, of course, to harness fusion power to provide the power to power such a rocket. So I do believe it will be possible to do this.
Okay. We have some more questions. Ricardo, did you want to? I know you had a question a little while ago. We have a handful left more, so maybe we could try to do a lightning round after Ricardo's question. Here we go.
Thank you, Ryan. Dr. Brandenburg, considering the unique factors that you talked to us about Mars, and considering that apparently and allegedly Mars is just next to the only planet we know has been converted into an asteroid belt in our solar system, and we are talking about catastrophes, do you see any possibility of both of them are somewhat related?
Asking like, are are we doomed because of the asteroid belt causing an asteroid to run into the Earth?
No. We're talking about major catastrophism on Mars, correct? That create this unique signature of isotopes. And next to Mars, we have the asteroid belt that in mythology and some cultures, it was considered to be a planet that exploded. So have you ever sorry?
That's one theory.
And
Yep.
this theory, how the asteroid belt. In fact, if you wish to see this theory explored in some detail, I urge you all to watch the excellent Japanese monster movie made by the same people who made the Godzilla movie. And this is called The Mysterian. And it came out about 1957, just before Sputnik.
I'm gonna find it.
It talked about aliens who originally lived on the exploded planet. And turns out they blew up their entire planet in a war with each other. And now they've decided to come to Earth. So
Ricardo, are you asking if there's any relationship?
it's just they learned to be pacifists in this war. But then they want parts of the Earth, and they want to marry Japanese girls. By the way, it features beautiful Japanese women being kidnapped in flying saucers, and enormous use of directed energy weapons. And
I got the trailer pulled up, but I don't know if we'll get dinged for it.
watch it.
Well, beautiful Japanese women. That sounds great. I think what Ricardo's asking is if there's any reason to suspect there's this idea
The two
of
catastrophes are somewhat related.
these two catastrophes, the catastrophes on Mars and what is thought to be a previous planet now exploded, now known as the asteroid belt. Are they possibly related?
Well, Mars has a lot of craters on it, as you know. So it looks like Mars has absorbed a lot of pieces of the asteroid belt. But the best we can surmise is the asteroid belt exploded, or the parent, the object that made up the asteroid belt was disrupted in the very earliest phases of the solar system. So we don't get, like we get some meteorites that are basically lava, but it's not lava from a planet. It's more like just hot pieces of rock. I guess I would just simply say it is an interesting hypothesis that the asteroid belt is the remains of an exploded planet. However, there are many ways to have that happen, such as if you have a planetary zone where two large bodies form and they eventually run into each other after orbiting independently for a while. And in fact, they think that the Earth-Moon system is a result of two large bodies running into each other, but the Earth survived, and
Yes.
then we had the Moon. Now, you could imagine a similar thing happening in the asteroid belt, only both planets being blown to smithereens.
The mainstream explanation is that the gravity of
like the Earth and the Moon system did.
the gravity of Jupiter caused the planet not to be able to aggregate properly. So they say that probably was not even never reached
It
the
would have disrupted any attempt. It would be the gravity of Jupiter is so powerful, it would have continually been stirring the pot. so that you couldn't reform planets once they fragmented.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brandenburg.
Most of the planet's planetary mass would, in a few million years, be sucked into Jupiter, or some of it would run into Mars, but very little of it is left in the asteroid belt from its original content.
Exactly.
Thank you. We've got some more questions from the chat, people watching here. Can you explain for us, Dr. Brandenburg, your method of calculating how long ago this nuclear event occurred on Mars? What do you have to say about that?
The rocks on Mars seem to show evidence of a intense radiological event, bombardment by neutron. And also the earliest rocks on Mars don't have the xenon anomaly. So it looks like somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 million years, based on isotopic half-life. Something like 300 million years ago, this event occurred. It did not occur recently on Mars. It was roughly the same time as the Cambrian explosion on Earth. It produced a wide variety of very strange life forms.
Okay, cool.
Panspermia right there.
Shows.
Let's see.
Data.
As it relates to Mars, the weakened electromagnetic field, Mars's weak magnetic field, what did this nuclear event somehow cause that? Was that, how was that related? Where was that on the timeline? And is there any connection there?
It looks as though Mars used to have, there's good evidence that Mars had a very strong magnetic field like the Earth when it was young. However, that is powered by having a liquid metal core. And what happened on Mars was that Mars cooled off more quickly than the Earth. The Earth still has a hot metal core, but Mars is only one eighth or less. It's like 1/10 of the mass of the Earth, even though it's half the size. The mass goes as basically, Earth and Mars are made of basically the same kind of rock. So you have basically 1/2 to the third power less material to work with. And that means Mars would have cooled off quicker. So it looks like Mars' core cooled off more quickly and froze finally. And that's what ended its magnetic field. But having an enormous two enormous nuclear explosions probably did not help.
Mm-hmm.
It created an enormous magnetic disruption that could have reached actually into the core of Mars and kind of scrambled things.
So it like
The answer is, it looks like Mars lost its magnetic field basically because it gradually cooled off quickly than the Earth, but there could have been other events that contributed also to this.
got it. Rue in the chat asks is asking about atmospheric ignition, which is this whole Oppenheimer moment we talked about last time panel. You had mentioned to me a while back something about the nitrogen 15 content as being another signature, another nuclear or another isotopic signature for atmospheric ignition. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, nitrogen 14 is the basic isotope of nitrogen, but if you irradiate that with neutrons, it captures a neutron and becomes nitrogen 15 with a big release of energy, so that it's possible to, under intense neutron bombardment, to make the intensify the radiation effects because of the nitrogen 15 reaction. And so it's been a while since I worked on it, so I'm not certain of if I'm getting the details quite right. But nitrogen can be bombarded with neutrons and release energy. And that means if you have an intense neutron bombardment of the atmosphere, like from an enormous hydrogen bomb, you can get the atmosphere to essentially add to the destructive yield by its own nuclear reactions. And I think that that's what probably happened on Mars, because nitrogen 15 is elevated on Mars compared to Earth.
Got it. And we talked about xenon 129. We just talked about nitrogen. Getting into more isotopes here. The argon content in the atmosphere. Why is that important?
Argon 40 is produced by the decay of potassium 40. This is why bananas are actually more radioactive than just about anything else in your kitchen, because they're full of potassium. So the reason that potassium...
That's why Doc threw it in the flux capacitor. Now I know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have, we have on Earth constantly a bombardment of cosmic rays, and these create neutrons in the atmosphere that fall to Earth, and they hit the potassium in the rocks, which is normally potassium 39, and they create, the neutrons are captured by potassium 39, turn into potassium 40, which slowly decays into argon 40, and it decays at a well-known rate, and they use this to date bananas and fossils and things like this, based on how much argon 40 is in the rock compared to how much potassium 40 there is. So then, as it turns out, however, under very intense neutron bombardment, instead of the neutron, converting the potassium 39 to potassium 40, and then that decaying, there's enough potassium 40 that
Hang on. Call him back. Thanks, guys.
No worries. You're the true hero, Brian, of today's episode.
Yes.
You're the everyone's saying it in the chat.
He's got strong hands.
Brian needs to get workman's comp after this episode.
No, he's getting leveled up. The dungeon master is leveling him up after this one.
Yeah, we cut off there, but try again.
it is possible under intense neutron bombardment, like in a nuclear explosion, to make argon 40 instantly rather than letting it slowly decay from the potassium 40. So that's how you get a large amount of argon 40 quickly in geologic time. You just set off a nuke. And So Mars is known to have large amounts of argon-40, despite having less potassium in its rocks than Earth. So it's so that's yet another piece of evidence that an enormous radiological event occurred on Mars.
Okay, and just another thing about isotopes here, the xenon 129 is produced by supernova as well as thermonuclear weapon detonation, but not just any thermonuclear weapon detonation. As I understand it, it requires the use of thorium, which is interesting because we have these hotspots on Mars, which are thorium radioactive hotspots, and you.
One of the largest nuclear weapons we ever tested, and I do not know the technical details on this, they're classified, but it was announced that the largest underground nuclear test we ever undertook that produced, I believe it was 5 megatons. We did it up in Alaska. It was called Canakin. And it was the test of a space nuclear warhead for anti-missile work. And we know it included a lot of thorium because the government said it did. And so apparently thorium enhances the neutron production. The xenon 129 is fairly insensitive to between thorium and uranium. Both of them produce xenon 129 when split by very high energy neutrons. However, the thorium, and you can look this up on the net, it's not classified, produces a lot of neutrons when this happens, much more than uranium. Uranium produces, like, if you split it with a high energy neutron, produces 2 to 3 extra neutrons. But thorium apparently produces 6 or 7. It's an enhancement. Well, you've all heard of the neutron bomb. The neutron bomb is specifically designed to make a lot of neutrons. And one of the applications of that was to shoot down other nuclear warheads in space, like they tested at Amchatka. But I don't know that for sure. All I know was the space nuclear warhead included a lot of thorium.
Right, and for those of you who are interested, there is some dramatic film footage online of this Canakin nuclear test where they bury this nuclear weapon and they detonate it and the whole ground lifts up like 10 feet, and it's ridiculous. As far
It's quite fun too, and these scientists are just praying that it won't trigger a major earthquake, and it didn't. It just they'd had a major earthquake on that earthquake's fault back in the early 60s, and it had been devastating in Anchorage and parts of Alaska. But this time they set off this big bomb right on the earthquake fault, and nothing happened. It basically made the island jump 10 feet. But other than that, nothing happened. Thank God.
crazy cowboy scientists. Here's another question.
Science.
Right.
It's way to describe.
So we have a question from the chat from Antonio. He's asking how much xenon is on Earth. Antonio, I'm just going to answer this. Antonio, there's Brandenburg's paper you can find it on the Blue Planet Red website. You can read all the data for yourself. It compares what Mars has versus what Earth has. You can go see it for yourself. It's kind of hard to explain it right now. But I want to go back to what certain scientists will try to explain when they try to explain how Mars has so much xenon 129. They will say it's a natural reaction, and they will point to this event that happened in the country of Gabon millions of years ago, this uranium mine, which I think you looked into. And can you just go over that again and why you ruled that out?
Well, yes, there were uranium deposits that were very concentrated, and they're still there, but they formed millions of years ago by bacteria. Some bacteria liked uranium, so it gathered all the uranium it could out of the groundwater. Now, what also happened was when they mixed all of this, you had all of this uranium in the rock, water, groundwater soaked into this rock, and it produced a natural nuclear reactor. And the natural nuclear reactor needed water to run because it used slow neutrons. The neutrons were slowed down by the water, which makes the most effective splitting atom. And so the water would soak into this rock. The uranium would form a natural nuclear reactor and get hot, and then it would drive all the water out because it was hot. And then it would cool off because it would shut down the nuclear reactor. So the nuclear reactor proceeded roughly 100,000 years just as a series of nuclear hiccups. And but slow neutrons, which is make natural nuclear reactors, or even the natural nuclear reactors we use for generating power, don't make xenon 129. It's only fast neutrons that are produced in nuclear weapons that do that.
And this is the difference between S process and R process.
Yes, this is the difference between S process means slow, R process means rapid. It had to have been an R process on Mars.
Got it. Another sort of conjecture.
There's another program that uses very fast neutrons in nuclear reactors, and it's to make plutonium for nuclear weapons. And that produced not as much xenon 129, but it did produce a lot more a normal nuclear reactor. And that produced a lot of xenon 129 in the Earth's atmosphere because they were making plutonium because of the big nuclear arms buildup of the 50s and early 60s.
Got it.
Earth, xenon 129 actually changed over time to become more to be more rich in xenon 129. It's not a big change, but it was a change, and it was caused by a nuclear arms buildup.
Okay, great. We're going to start wrapping it up here, but one last question from Antonio from the chat. He was asking, and this is more of a conjecture question. He's asking, is it possible that there were any survivors from this event?
I think it's highly unlikely that any civilization survived this. I think the only thing that survived this was some very tough microbial life that basically lived underground. I don't think any intelligent life survived this. It was all wiped out, I think. someone wanted not only to wipe out a civilization on Mars, they basically wanted to wipe out its biosphere so it could never support intelligent life again. We're talking, the only precedent I can think of is Genghis Khan and the Mongols would make pyramids of heads of cities they would capture. They would kill all the inhabitants, chop off their heads, and stack them in a big pile as a warning to others not to resist. This was almost in Star Wars. They used the Death Star to destroy the planet Alderaan, and it's an act of terror. They wanted to terrorize everyone and show how ruthless they were. So it's almost as if it was an event like that.
Dang. I have a question, Dr. Brandenburg. So you were one of the early researchers to propose that Mars once had a substantial ocean. Now that's like widely accepted. What kind of ocean did Mars have, like when this this event happened, this nuclear event?
The ocean that existed on Mars up until probably the Great Nuclear Catastrophe or Holocaust was roughly covered the top quarter of the planet to a depth of 1 or 2 kilometers. And so it had, the ocean was there, but the detonations of the 2 nuclear weapons were over the oceans to create apparently giant tidal waves to wipe out the cities along the edges of the space on Mars was built at a city, or along with the pyramid nearby. The space on Mars was built as a city kind of on the coast, like where on human beings do the same thing. They build cities along coastlines because then they can do ships and things like this. And so it looks like the explosions were done perhaps purposely over the oceans to create giant tidal waves that would wipe out the civilization, the cities of the civilization on Mars along the coast.
Thank you, Dr. Brandenburg.
Yeah, Dr. Brandenburg, would the shockwave and the tsunamis that would ensue, would that extend further into the interior and possibly destroy structures in the southern mid-latitudes of Mars?
I'd only be speculating. You would have to do very sophisticated computer modeling to figure that one out. And I think we'll have to send astronauts to Mars to really dig through the ruins. Trained archaeologists to dig through the ruins to discover that. And you'll forgive me. We're talking about some very powerful negative things, and I think I'd like to change the subject at this point, if that's possible.
Sure.
Well, in fact, I guess we're close to being done. I'm
Yeah.
very to but subject does make me very sad to talk about. I take no pleasure in it.
No.
Well, I want to just say, I think on behalf of this panel, we're all very appreciative of your work over the past 4 or 5 decades on this, being the sole voice who has done the hard work of publishing this research at least 3 times that I am aware of. and being mostly marginalized from the community. But I think you've got a more established fan base now. You've got over how many followers on Twitter now? 20,000 at least?
Yeah, I believe so. my Twitter account, somebody basically hacked it.
Oh, no.
Haven't been able to post to it anymore. And that's okay. That's okay, because for one thing, I'm now working on this fusion project, and I was spending a great deal of time on X, and now I have to spend a great deal of time on trying to solve the energy crisis. So that's good.
As I understand it, you're back now working as chief scientist at Kepler Aerospace in Texas.
Yes, well, actually, it's now American Fusion.
Okay.
So with God's help, we're going to solve the energy crisis.
We still need to get you back on Twitter, though. So.
Okay, we'll see. We'll work on that.
The question, Dr. Brandenburg, is will you be allowed to solve the energy crisis?
What's that?
Say it again, Ricardo.
Will you be allowed to solve the energy crisis?
Oh, Antonio, that's such a very good question. One of the that's a whole other discussion. We're going to do our best. If the government approaches us and says, we don't want you to solve the energy crisis. The energy crisis is useful to us.
Right.
Then we'll understand that, but we're going to do our very best to solve it anyway.
Well, I'm sure they'll have great uses to your findings. I'm just questioning how long will they take to become public or a use for the major population.
Yes, I'm doing this to save the. Thank God, the global climate crisis that people were predicting hasn't seemed to have occurred. But you have these terrible forest fire in France now. It never had anything like this. And it's because the summer in Europe has just been terrible. 5,000 people have died in France alone because of the heat.
Dr. Brandenburg, the normal number is above 30,000. It was a regular summer. I just came from Portugal where I live. That's just publicity. The normal number is between 28 and 32,000. You can go and confirm. That's the amount of people that die every year from heat on Europe. So it is nothing to be surprised or amazed about. It's just, it's in fact below the number because more people have access to fans and to air conditioning.
Y'all need air conditioning, dude.
So it's just propaganda. I'm sorry to say.
You know, what I would do is I would get those big pancake fans and I would I would have one or two of those running and I felt perfectly fine with a glass of ice water and my fans going. I had a fan club. So anyway, you guys, I'm going to have to let you go.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brandenburg.
Thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave and Brian.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Dr. Brandenburg.
Got some stuff to look at.
I'll chat with you later.
Okay, very good. Very good, Brian. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was epic. That
Thanks,
was some good stuff. We got some good questions in there. Brian, you're off the hook now. that was some ninja stuff there at the last second. I don't think it would have worked at that 10-second delay.
No, we tried, but we got it done. There's lots of technical stuff in here, and he rarely gets the chance to address the skeptic questions in this much detail. He's not quite plugged in as well as these other folks, so we can just say, hey, hop on a Zoom call and let's chat about this stuff. So when we got them, we got to get everything out of them while we can. You know, the other thing is some of these guys are just getting up there in age, so we just got to preserve all their knowledge and all their data as best we can. So I appreciate you guys being patient with the tech difficulties and, you know, going through this much detail about nuclear isotopes.
Well, he's on the Mount Rushmore of Mars guys, right? So
Yep.
I'd put him on there. So, like I said, standing on the shoulders of giants. Are we going to look at some picks today, or?
Oh yes, we got a few fun ones to look at here.
Sweet.
So-
I think our audience always looks forward to those. And I just wanted to shout out the chat too. The chat's been on fire. We got a bunch of new people, a bunch of regulars. We appreciate everyone very much. Lots of good action, good questions in the chat. Hopefully we got to all of them, but thank you.
Dave, can you see my screen?
We got you, bro.
I'm sharing. Okay, cool. I think let's go landscape so that we can get maximum real estate on the screen. So I've listed 4 URLs, and you're welcome to go to those to view these photographs we'll be looking at next. So the first one, were both these discovered by Carrie Sievertson, Brian?
I think this one was, yeah.
Yeah. So she initially posted to her ex the rows of blocks on the right-hand side of this image.
Okay.
I then went into Rover Curiosity's catalog, and I found another row of blocks or column on the right where my mouse cursor is. So I called up this image that showed both those potential walls or columns, whatever you want to call them. And also found the color version on the analyst's notebook. So yeah, they've taken that grid by a filter and converted it to color. So we'll be looking at both the color and black and white versions. So let's start with the block highlighted to the top. And here it is. That's in the black and white with a biofilter grid overlay. And there we can see the color. So what strikes me is the huge rectangular block made up of these smaller, if you'd call them bricks. It looks like brickwork. And what's interesting about this terrain is the presence of one or more of these small little bricks visible over there to the top right where my mouse cursor is. And then typically there's a lot of these layers of what look like shards or broken off layers.
Mm-hmm.
Very random. But these things stick out like they totally don't belong there. Then on the left, there's the black and white, and then the color. Yeah, in the foreground, you can see more of these smaller brick-like parts in layers. And then there to the back, it looks like we've got a large rectangular structure where only the right-hand part and the bottom part show the straight sides with this potential brick-like work. The top of the rectangle seems to be hollowed out, maybe erosion, maybe an impact, but it looks like a rectangular structure made of these smaller bricks. Also totally destroyed in Mars's distant past. So the question is, what could we be looking at there? A potential ruin or just natural geological processes? So you can see the bigger picture. We've got these random like slates of rocks, layers, and they sort of broken off on the edges randomly and then clumped together in these rows. We've got these blocks arranged in nice rows. So what do you guys think?
They're both really weird. I'll give them that. The one on the left intrigues me more than the one on the right, because it looks like could be a full structure back there. What size? Somebody asked about scale. What size are we talking that wall to be, you think?
Okay, the larger bricks I would put at 30 centimeters in length.
Okay.
Yeah, so about
I'm sorry, John.
half a length of your forearm.
The whole block is only 30 centimeters?
No, the little bricks, the little
bricks, yeah.
Little spaces, yeah.
So it's a few feet high.
Yeah,
but it looks like it could have it could be buried. There could be more buried underneath there.
Yeah, when you take in the whole shot, and I guess while you're on this shot, particularly the whole shot works, man. You're good. The whole shot. So when I see all the pieces, I've got the big piece on the left, the fairly big chunk of what seems to be the same material on the right. Down center, again, I have seemingly sort of that same stuff. Now in the middle, I have what appears to be a shelf almost. I can see how it points out, and you can see a shadow casting below it, and it looks like that chunk fell off it, right?
Yeah.
So when I take in the whole without focusing on is it a brick or not, right? I do see, again, I go back to what is basically required to make the picture in front of me, right? And I need force and I need energy to make this make sense. It just echoes pieces of something more so than, wind and water slowly did this over time, whatever it is. And that is, look at that. I mean, that's a very regular hunk of something.
Yeah, and it's part of a larger block.
Yeah.
And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 layers that are visible.
Yeah, for me it looks similar when it comes to the full picture, that there should be similar things in between the two anomalies. You know what I mean? It was cut off on this picture. It was sliced off and the middle section is basically empty.
Yes, if you look at the structure on this one, you can see the rough outline of a larger rectangular structure.
Almost looks like a circular depression in the middle there.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was a bomb in there and it exploded, made a hole, and separated the wall. And it could have fallen piece of it over here in the foreground and a piece over here to the right. I don't know. Maybe a tsunami, a wave of very strong flowing water could have separated the structure as well, or structures.
It goes back to so many of these you show us, Jean, is that it's not each in particular one. It's when I look at each in particular one with the knowledge you've given me and all the other pictures in my head, that this does become something. I mean, it just pieces.
Yes, this is another one of those. Who knows what happened?
This one to me, when I first started looking at this, I was leaning on the side of geology because we see layered rock compositions. We're looking at a cliffside, let's just say, we can sometimes see layers of rocks, right? The layering. Where I started getting a little hung up on is that we're also seeing these vertical cracks here, which gives it this brick-like formation. So we would need a geologist to say, oh yeah, that's normal. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this one here, I had trouble with, because I don't know how. I mean, this looks like a long rectangle. It's got a rectangular top, rectangular sides. Obviously, it's sort of tilted over, but then it has these edges, these corners. Everything about this just screams giant rectangular box, and that it's so distinct. These two big items here are distinct from the rest of the landscape here. They just don't fit. How does something jut out? Look at everything else. It has these irregular edges. There is no regularity to it, but these two things just look like building foundations.
Yeah, the top right, this guy to me, it's very weird. It looks like it almost. I'm not saying it's fake. It looks fake. That's how weird it looks. Looks like a granola bar or something like that sitting there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like So when I look at it, I'm like, I struggle to say that. I mean, I feel like it has to be a piece of something bigger that we're not seeing, but it's weird.
Yeah, we lack a lot of context in here, because we don't know what that was. Was it a column, a part of a base? So there is no context. It has nothing around it to support a type of function that is clear, right? But it's undeniable that it deserves for sure that they grab the goddamn rover and go there and film it properly, which they don't.
Yes. And what else is striking about this one is it's got a row of long bricks, and then on top of it, a row of shorter bricks. So it's like you're laying a brick this way, and then you're laying bricks on top of those at 90-degree angles. And then you go back to 0 degrees and you lay your bricks, and then you go 90 degrees and you lay your bricks. So you'll see long bricks and then short bricks, long bricks, short bricks. If you guys know what I mean, you're building like a staggered way.
Right. I mean,
that's
even these
the walls.
I mean, the bricks aren't necessarily. They don't necessarily have regularity among them, but when you match it with the shape of the structure that they all make up, then it starts to look a little bit more artificial in nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, they generally speaking the same length.
They are.
A little bit of corrosion here and there has changed their shape. The binding material between the layers is gone. So, yeah, it's one of those. What do we make of this? Could it potentially have been a megalithic structure? Is this one for a video on our YouTube channels, or is this just one to have a casual chat about?
Good question. When John and I have trouble with these, we're like, let's throw it to the panel, see what they think.
Does this make it into the YouTube archive?
Depends on your audience. I mean, honestly, like if from my eye, having sat here week after week and studied this stuff with y'all, I see something here. I see the way that there's all these little pieces that you can see that seem to be the size of those things you're calling bricks, right? I can see all this and find it interesting. Does somebody who possibly wants to knee-jerk towards natural, would they see something in this, or would they easily dismiss it? I'd say this is probably in the category of something somebody already leaning towards dismissing could easily try to chunk out of their frame of reference, you know?
Yep.
For me, certainly not, John. I mean, I've been sitting here getting educated by you for so long now that my eye, I see all these things where I'm like, that's not natural. That's not natural. You know, it gets somebody in there. But somebody else might not. I mean, this echoes a desert landscape on many levels to your eye, you know.
Yeah.
I do agree, though, that square piece, you're going to have to work real hard to tell me where I can find that on Earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, naturally occurring, that is.
Yeah, I wanted to say Dustum had a comment here. Where's it at? Would love to see the underlying layers around those structures. That's what I keep thinking about, is like, I would love to see what's underground here. I think that would help. That, like Ricardo said, that would definitely give more context, but it would be interesting to see if there's other stuff buried here. Looks like there very well could be.
Yeah,
Agreed.
The inside, you see that it looks like a bowl. We don't know how that happened, but the inside doesn't show, or doesn't appear to show, the same type of construction we see outside, right? At least to me. So
Yeah.
it is a containing wall of a base that was
something
moved, right? Because it doesn't seem that the interior is made of the same brick structure that we see on the edge. But my point here, in regarding your question, is to know if there is enough to make a full video out of. I think one of the things that I would do is try to look places on Earth with similar type of geology, and then compare what is the closest we can get. And sometimes if we can't get any close, then it means that it can't be, it's a clear indication it can't be natural. So that's where I would start. But the problem is how much it is to say about this, what we are seeing, right? Because it's very hard to
Yeah,
put context on.
Yeah, like the megalithic blocks that you find spread around at Pumapunku, for example. They look spread around like this, but none of them have got these smaller rows of bricks in them.
No, there are
I'd like to
single
see you
blocks.
find this breakfast cereal bar right here. I don't think you're going to find that bad boy anywhere on Earth.
So yeah, if we can find an Earth analog, we might have a video, but otherwise, not really.
So, and have you ever looked, John, for I don't remember the correct name, but geoglyphs? So anything like we find at Nazca, anything like that? You ever find anything like that on Mars?
I've seen, you know, those huge megalithic blocks I always show you guys. I've seen some of those with what looked like symbols made on them using smaller boulders or rocks. Like I'd see a pattern of a triangle, a pattern of a circle, a pattern of a capital T, a symbol of a number 5. I see those types of depictions on these huge megaliths. Do they classify as glyphs?
Those are more petroglyphs, because they are
Petroglyphs, yeah. No, glyphs, no, not in that sense.
No, I mean like so the face is a geoglyph, for instance. Even if it isn't a face, it is something on the crust of the Earth, right? So it's something huge. So geo comes from planet and so on. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I was asking from satellite would be, if they are there, they wouldn't be hard to find unless NASA hides them.
Yeah, look, I've shown you guys those rows of blocks photographed from orbit, where Dave compares it to Bimini Road. Remember those megalithic blocks that are still packed in rows, like this type of style. But now he's seeing smaller blocks photographed on the ground by the rover. So they aren't exactly the same, but they're also blocks still neatly next to one another in rows.
Yeah, but how do you explain how broken it is? Because we can see there is between those two blocks closest to us, there is this flat slab that is all cracked. and in front of it, it's a piece of that slab that has cracked and fall down, and probably when the soil moved. But we have no data about great earthquakes on Mars capable of causing this kind of subsidence of the floor. These ground movements that we are seeing here are not compatible with the geological history of Mars in terms of earthquake activity.
Yes. Would shock waves from huge explosions or tsunamis?
Yeah, but that would take us 300 million years back. There would be nothing.
I know, because everything I find on Mars is devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's blown apart. Things are so far apart, it will take you a lifetime to try and connect all the blocks. I don't know. It's like catastrophe after catastrophe after catastrophe
Yeah.
struck the surface and caused all this devastation. But why it would cause a potential structure to break up like this, I've got no clue. I don't know how that would work.
But if we think, for instance, let's just imagine that I'm right, and that the huge crater that exists exactly opposite on the planet to Mount Olympus and the 3 smaller volcanoes that are still bigger than the Everest are caused by this impact from the other side of the planet, a huge impact on the other side of the planet. That would cause tremendous movement of the surface, right? Because the interior was being projected and came out in the form of those volcanoes. It raised that huge, how you call a flat area that is very high? How you call that? That's
plateau.
Plateau. Thank you very much. It caused a huge plateau, and then the gigantic volcano on it, and the 3 smaller ones in front of it. So, if that was the cause of those 3 volcanoes to came up, because science has no explanation how a smaller planet with smaller inner activity has the biggest volcanoes on the solar system that we know of. So, to me, an impact on the crater that we can see, a gigantic impact that we see on the other side of this would cause the soil to move and cause what we are seeing here. It could explain it, but otherwise I don't see how. And I can't put that 300 million years ago. I just can't. It's too far away back. Even considering the planet has a less grade of erosion than the Earth, it has now, but when this happened, obviously it has an atmosphere, it has an ocean, so the erosion won't be that different. Although the gravity was smaller, but the erosion wouldn't be that different. So I cannot put it 300 million years ago. I just can't.
What would you put it at? 100,000 years?
I would put it at most around the 300,000 mark.
Yeah.
Because that's when you see humans on Earth. That's when they start.
It's interesting. Very, very interesting. So, this is one for further research. We need to potentially find some of the sites to this on Earth and compare it to get some type of reference. Shall I hop on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay, this is also from Carrie. And she highlighted something in the photograph there. And I zoomed in on it. And I can't quite see what she was talking about. Someone commented it looks like a worm. Do you know what they were talking about, Brian?
Oh, well, first, before I say anything, what does the panel here see?
Top left, you got some sort of something large flat thing that looks angular, like it didn't belong there, like it came from somewhere else, perhaps blown on top of it. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny little tube in the middle, middle right, actually. No, it's further down.
I see possible alignments with rocks on the floor. I see.
Don't overthink this. This is an obvious
I
The
see.
big black object that's at the top.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
sure,
why are we not
sure.
talking about that?
That's what I saw. Yeah.
There you go.
So it looks like a UFO landed or some shit.
Looks like a slug or something crawling along. I'm not saying it is, but I'm not saying it isn't.
Exactly. So yeah, we have a newcomer to the scene since we last spoke. Her name is Kari Sievertsen. She's from Norway. Hi, Kari, if you're listening.
I think
I
she
haven't
is.
haven't had a chance to yet meet with her over Zoom, but she's been pumping stuff out on her Twitter account on a daily basis, and just finding all sorts of stuff. And this was one that she found recently. I don't know what the heck to make of this. I don't know how
I
to
like
characterize it, but Spice Worm, that's funny. If it's just a rock, that's a funny looking rock. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm equally fascinated by the signs of water carving on the soil.
Yes.
Is
That
this
thing's
this a
weird, man.
zone that freezes or not? You know,
It's in Gale Crater. It's on the equator.
equator.
Yes.
Shouldn't have ice, at least on the surface.
Yeah.
So where's the water coming from? Or what is that? Some kind of liquid that came from whatever is that thing on top? Or
Yeah, looks like it crawled right through there, man. It
I've
crawled
seen-
through there and up on top of the ledge there. Look, there's the track.
I've seen dark streaks running down dunes in many rover Curiosity photographs. And it looks like wet sand. It's almost like mud
yes.
that runs down these slopes. And
But
lots of researchers suggest it is water seeping up through to the surface and then running down these slopes. Something like permafrost water or springs that are underground. But it looks like mud. It looks like wet sand. And I see what you mean.
It looks way too dark compared, like the contrast compared to the rest of the image. It just looks way too dark.
Yeah,
For
why?
my liking. It's strange. Yeah.
Almost like it was painted black as well as a shadow. I mean, there's just
I
it's
think it
too
was
deep.
painted. If we go closer, I think that there's some
Find some brush strokes,
yeah,
maybe,
it was
Ricardo.
just brushed on sloppily, very, in a very sloppy way. Yes.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Could it be?
It's an anomaly for sure, and it's not like any kind of rock on Earth doesn't look like that.
No,
You guys see these layers of this rock closest to us?
Yeah, it looks blacked
Could
out.
that be one of those layers
Is it
that
possible
broke
that
off
little
and
area
is
is
lying
blacked out?
over this ridge?
It's
And
really
these are-
rounded looking when you zoom in at it, isn't it? At the top right, and then
and-
even on
and-
both sides, it's very rounded.
And Jason, can you see the thinning of the black? It's not, the black doesn't end.
I see. Oh, look, I see. You're
The
right.
black
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
end. It has a bleeding
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
it, like exactly if you
Like
try
it,
to
like the
cover
top is wrapping as well,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like it's curved on that side.
So I
and
think
then-
that's a brush retouch
I
on
see.
that photo. I don't think we are watching any object that is actually there.
So you think somebody blacked out what's
Yeah.
there?
That's what it looks weird. That somebody said that in the chat, and as soon as they said that, I was like, "That's what I think." Yeah, it looks like somebody blacked that out.
This is the real photograph from the real NASA site.
Super
So-
weird.
Well, but
If
they are not from the rover to the website. They pass through many hands before they are published.
Right. Filtering.
This is Donna Hay whistleblower territory. Are you guys familiar with Donna Hay that used to work at NASA? And she testified with Dr. Stephen Greer that she noticed and she was shown how NASA employees allegedly manipulate photographs
Saw that
using
story, I remember now.
airbrushes
Yep.
Well, I think it's now confirmed that they did it, especially during the moon exploration. They did it because Richard Hoagland and his team showed several images with and without the brushing, because they actually obtained the originals from the archive that were unbrushed and were different from the ones that were published. So there was no doubt they were airbrushing.
Something's fishy with that one right there. Yeah. I can tell you that much. We've seen black rocks. Somebody asked, is there any black rocks on Mars? Yeah, we've seen black rocks. This doesn't even look like a rock to me.
No, it would have like some degree of shading or some depth or something to it. This just looks like, yeah, someone just like drew.
Yeah, it's just passed a brush on that, so we don't see what it is.
Maybe it was a misclick.
You know, you'd think look, the rovers are manned by personnel. They're not just up there aimlessly wandering around. There's someone saying, let's program to go here, here, and here.
Exactly.
They see all this stuff that we show you guys, yet they do not take a closer look. And
well, they might. We just don't get those pictures.
That's true.
Right.
That's definitely possible. But
what do you think is financing all this? Mars exploration or looking for something?
It's just like in archaeology, we found, bro, that at Cahokia, when they go to dig in, and exactly, somebody's financing this. And if somebody who's financing it, and it's not taxpayer dollars, it's just not. And whoever's really financing it, if they're after something, then they're going to keep the evidence of that. That's simple math.
Let me ask a question that I think Brian will be more indicated to answer, maybe John. What is the level of clearance of the people that receive the live view or the fresh data from the rovers? What is their clearance? What's their level?
They did. NASA employees do have security clearance levels. Donna Hare had a level to gain access into the lab where they were working with the original raw footage, and they were the ones allegedly allowed to airbrush. Other staff were not privy to that.
Because you see scientists speaking from NASA, but where is the people that actually deals with the photographs? Where is the staff?
You don't.
Who is that?
You get the PR people from NASA speaking. It is very rarely that they actually interview one of the scientists or mission scientists.
Let me make a comment here. You guys remember the cylinder that we talked about, right?
Yes.
This perfectly smooth cylinder. Okay, I'm not going to tell me who told me this, but I know a credible scientist who is doing some research in the astrobiology community who has connections with the Curiosity rover team. Okay, and he emailed them about this cylinder, and the responses that he got back were very telling. They told him two things. They said this cylinder image is fake.
Which makes sense.
They thought their own image was a faked image. That's number one. Number two, they said, well, if it's real, then someone must have hacked into our system and put it there.
Put it there.
Okay, this is the amount of cope the JPL technicians are dealing with. Okay, this is what they're doing. They don't believe their own stuff. They're not looking at this with a critical eye. They're probably good engineers, but no one's doing the work that we're doing here at JPL.
Yeah, Brian, but that tells me that today that the rover stumbles into, let's imagine a UFO with beings coming out of it, they will just say, look, we were hacked and someone with AI created this to make this false story, right? They even can give you the real footage and say it's fake. Just like when they presented the face, they said, look, wonderful trick of light and shadow.
So Anyway, guys, I think John's got one more image. I know we want to try to wrap this up because Dave's got some other stuff going on.
I think, Brian, I think that's it.
Oh, how many did we do? Did we do?
The bricks and then the strange worm.
The worm, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
which other one did you ask me to do?
I forget, so it's okay.
Well, we are at 2 hours. what? 2 hours and a half.
2:30. Yeah, 2.5.
Not too shabby. We
Thanks.
got to talk to a legend.
Stop sharing. Thanks, guys. So, do any of those warrant a video?
I do one on the worm. I bet people are going to react to that.
Yeah, the blacked out. Yeah, because that has so many more layers to it.
Just do this. Grab that image. Go to an editor that allows you to delete with AI whatever you want. Delete the black, and then you paint the black on top, and then compare the two images, and you'll see the same thing.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That's it from my side.
Another Mars
Thank you,
Disclosure
John.
Live. Megan, how was your night?
Great. I was a little quieter than usual, but I was just taking it all in. You guys are brilliant. It's exciting to hear everybody's questions and all the conclusions the chat makes, and happy to be here.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you,
We're
Megan.
happy you're here. We're happy everyone in the chat is here. Shout out to the chat. Ricardo, how cool was it to talk to Dr. John Brandenburg?
Oh, it was awesome. I am very grateful for the opportunity. So it's not someone you cross on the street.
No.
It's a
I've been-
privilege. Thank you.
If you guys remember, right in the beginning, I was saying, let's get Dr. Brandenburg on.
Yep.
He's like my mentor.
Well, I guess that some compliment should be given to Brian also, because I think the contact comes from him, right?
Oh, yes. Brian is the glue that sticks us all together. As
Quite
always,
literally today, earning his workman's comp payment by
Yeah, what
holding
an
the phone
awesome
up
job.
for us.
Well done, Brian.
You get to level up after this quest. So you're up a level.
Roll a
because-
D20, make it good.
Yeah, because that was clutch. Olek, any final words talking to Dr. John Brandenburg?
Yeah, it was an honor to talk to him, and I really liked, all the knowledge. It was, amazing. Thank you, and as always, Anomalies, to think about new ones. So, thank you, guys.
Outstanding.
Yes. And thank you to everyone in the chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Before we go,
we've been hopping all over the place in the chat. So
before we go, just want to tease the video I've got coming out on Tuesday. I'm going to be highlighting one of Gary's finds. We talked about it recently. This pyramidal mound, which NASA has identified themselves as a pyramid, which proves, and I don't use that word lightly, that we're not just seeing things. This is not a case of pareidolia. This is a pyramid, and
NASA confirmed it was a pyramid, or that it's a
oh shit.
that is how they title it. So I'm interpreting that, unless there are natural pyramidal mounds that have 4 equal flat sides and all the geometric regularity associated with man-made pyramids that I don't know about, well, I'm going to go ahead and say that we've got a bona fide NASA stamped guaranteed pyramid, whether they like it or not. I'm just taking it and running with it. But we've got the great fortune of having a new tool at our disposal, not just the Google Earth program, but Caltech has a Mars viewer with updated imagery, which allows you to see this thing in 3D. There's
Wow.
nothing else around it. It is undeniable. Gary has made a magnificent find, and that I've got the video coming out on Tuesday. And Dave, we've got Ashish giving his commentary. You guys know Ashish Rastogi? Yeah, I recently connected with him. He's great, and he gives he gives an interesting commentary on the geometry here that I just love the way he puts things. So anyway. Shout out to Gary if you're watching. Keep doing the great work, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Gary. Ashish is a really big thinker. He's interesting to talk to. Jason, final words, my friend.
Man, as always, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everybody, for the chance to continually educate myself on all of these anomalies of, let's call it our past, guys. You know what I always say, Dave? Our best future requires the truth of our past, and who knew that would take us to Mars? But it has, and I thank you guys for the opportunity, as always.
Outstanding. Brian, final words.
Yeah, guys, thanks again for being here, for showing up, for doing this thing. Hello to Sarah. I understand she won't be joining us anymore, but I really appreciate her company. I'll be reaching out to her privately. But anyway, thanks, guys. Dave, we still got lots of good shows coming. We'll talk about what we'll do next. But hey, thanks, guys, for showing up and helping us figure some of this stuff out, because we need more eyes on this stuff. More eyes, more interpretations, more analysis. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for shouting out, Sarah. We love you, we miss you, but we know you'll be watching. So with that, we'll end it. Light, love, truth to everyone watching, and subscribe to all of our channels. We're live on like 6 different channels right now. Give us all a subscribe if you haven't already, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. You can join me live in about 45 minutes on Breaking Ancient News with Cody from East End Outpost and Aaron from Megalithic Mystery. Peace out, everyone.